Hello everyone and welcome back to the
Sons of Aries podcast, where it's 26 degrees in here, so it's very warm.
Jason's very warm today. We're all very warm.
Might be too hot. Speaking of a subject that's too hot, should we introduce ourselves first instead of that fantastic segue?
Sure.
Cool. I'm Dan,
I'm Matthew.
I'm Jason.
and today we're being extremely formal. Anyway, so we thought we would cover kind of the current climate around social media, and obviously this is a topic that's been hit upon a lot, but I think it's more about our personal experience of what we're seeing, not just for their own use, but the people around us, and basically weighing up the positives and negatives and seeing if it's kind of like a big positive or like a kind of Manhattan Project gone wrong. So I guess I'll start today. Were you gonna?
Well, I was going to say, our
jump in?
hypothesis is probably, like most things, probably a balance of both in the end.
Mm-hmm.
The good, the bad, and the
some
ugly.
good, some bad, yeah. And the ugly.
Yeah, if I don't make it, tell my wife hello. So what I've been noticing in particular lately is a growing kind of swell of people who are not taking part in it in any way. And, you know, even people who were really against it, I say back in the day, like 6 years ago, used to just, like, have a Facebook just to, you know, see what people's statuses were, but mainly just to get invited to share.
Yeah, keep in the loop of stuff, yeah.
Before, everyone was in a farcical number of WhatsApp groups for every tiny event. Everything was done on a Facebook group, and if you didn't have Facebook, you weren't getting invited or anything.
Right.
And, you know, for a long time, whenever anyone's gone, I don't have social media, everyone's like, conspiracy nut. What are you doing? Big Brother's already got you, man. But these days, it's very much like, fair play. I don't use it either, you know. So we'll talk about why that is
that's interesting.
a bit later, but I go on to what you two are experiencing, because, you know, Jace is more in a conventional workplace, Matt, having come straight out from university, might have an interesting balance of sample.
Sure. So the question being how we use social media.
Well, what are you finding is the attitude of people around you, obviously including yourself, towards it?
Well, I don't use it. So I haven't been on. I was on Twitter about a year or so ago when I was trying to push my podcast. Push it.
Real good.
And I came off of it because it was exhausting, and I didn't look like I was trying to get involved in some conversations, like in good faith, just to try and.
Well, that was your first mistake on social media.
Well, yeah. And it annoyed me because I was going to bed thinking about conversations I was having on Twitter. I was laying in bed thinking about that, and I was like, well, there's loads of other stuff I could be thinking about while laying in bed.
It was weighing you down and you didn't like that.
I was like, there's other things I could be thinking about, other than random people I'm talking to on Twitter. About gender, mostly. But I stopped using Facebook around 2017, 2018, because I caught myself at work just scrolling through just nonsense after nonsense. Again, well, like you were saying, like you're on social media because you have friends, and that's where people post their pictures.
And people are nosy.
Well, and you can keep up with each other. You know, it's like this. To go to the positives or negatives, I guess one of the positives is it does allow you to keep up with people at least that you might not necessarily be talking to. So there's at least some information coming in about the developments that are happening in their life, which if you don't have social media and you don't talk to those people, you're not having access to that information. So you could really lose touch with somebody because you've got no frame of reference for who they are anymore because they've changed. Or if you've got social media, like, I know they've bought a house, I know they've moved over here.
You see the
they've got
development
kids,
over time.
even though we're not necessarily having a conversation.
It's like if you've ever not been a friend with someone on Facebook, say from school time, and then they pop up on there after 5, 6, 7, or now it's over 10 years for us, and you see them after all that time, you're like, oh my god, how much they've changed. But obviously if you've got that person for 10 years, you see that slow progress, and so it's not
Jarring.
severe. Right. But when you see someone after that time, you're like, they have changed a lot. Sometimes
It's interesting though, isn't it, to talk about people kind of, how you keep up with people on that platform, because, you know, back in the day, you remember what a status would be like? It would be like, Joe Blogs is going to the shop, or Joe Blogs is feeling pensive and full of hubris.
Did anyone ever say, I'm going to the shops?
Yeah.
to be fair, they did.
They did.
Full of shit.
Just so you know, everyone, after Morrison's.
But it's not even like what's on their mind anymore. It's more like a fucking press release.
Yeah.
People are like, they have to, like, when people get engaged or are going to get a house,
There's more
it's
of
a full press
more of
release,
like an agenda behind it, sort of thing.
Not even
like a.
I wouldn't say an agenda per se, but it's very like a. Strikes me as kind of
More self-absorbed then.
yeah, like a contrivance, fairly insincere, or maybe kind of innocently, accidentally narcissistic.
Well, I don't know. I think maybe it's just come down to like that's how people communicate now. Like if you grow up in a landscape where everything's done online, and because if you go to the pub, right, like you go and meet people on a Friday night or whatever it is, you don't walk in and declare stuff about your life, do you?
No, you don't say it like a status report.
Yeah, you don't walk in.
Well, to be fair, John does.
Quiet, everybody! I have an announcement.
God bless you, John.
John always comes in with the daily report.
No, but my point is like it would like an organic conversation would happen whereby you'd ask people what they've been up to, and that's how you'd bring the information up. Whereas that's absent on Facebook because like until someone responds to what you've put out there, there's no conversation already. You just start by saying, "Here's some things." And respond to it. Yeah. And so I don't know if it's like a narcissistic thing. It's just like what the it's like a feature of social media that it requires. Like we were talking last week.
It's show off, isn't it? Social media. People don't post their shit pictures; they post their good ones.
I was about to say it ties into what we were talking about last time about dating.
We know people who have done these, people we actually really like. It's not that they're being narcissistic. It's more that, in my opinion, this platform, this way of communicating, this kind of new culture, is just intrinsically everywhere like that. So these are kind of more surface level conversations. So it's not even you don't get like a comment thread anymore, other than going like "you're a prick." It's more like people react with like a heart or a laughing face or a thumb up. Yeah, and it's like congrats, fuck all to it. Yeah, it's just like it's very much
obligatory.
It's PR more than anything.
Yeah, but I don't know. But again, maybe that's just like that's life to people. If that's what human communication has come down to, which is the only way that you know that you're, I don't know, a loosely connected friend or your nephew or something has done something, and then the only way you really communicate with each other is a little comment here or there. Seems pretty benign and harmless.
On that topic, what I find quite weird is people writing happy birthday to people they don't talk to.
Can you get a reminder?
Yeah.
You didn't even remember.
Yeah. It's fine if, obviously, I think it's fine, obviously. People can do what they want, but I find it strange that people do that to people they've not seen for years and don't have any...
It's PR.
Yeah.
Again, I don't really think...
Dan's conclusion is that social media is PR.
But my point is it's not intentional PR. This is just... It's basically the way stuff is. And I think, with the happy birthday scenario in mind, it's very much... They're not actually thinking that much about the person they're writing to. It's kind of like, algorithm says it's their birthday today, so boom, like that. So if someone's your actual close friend, they'll just be with you or send you a message. Maybe I sound like a mega boomer, but there's someone I vaguely known him for like a year or something. It was his birthday. I thought, do I write something? Like, no, because I basically don't mean anything to him, and that's fair enough. He doesn't want to be bothered with me as like a quaternary character in his life. Yeah, again, I'm really not saying it's a terrible thing.
No,
it's not like I'm not saying it's a disease, Mr. Anderson. It's just like it's the way it is, and it regardless of how you feel about it, it has undeniably forever changed the way humans communicate and actually perceive the world. Because again, the way particularly Facebook has gone, it's not a repository of everyone posting stuff about themselves. It is a fucking advertising platform with like your mate occasionally on there, and that's the problem with it.
Massively.
And this is how it influences so much stuff in the world on a big and a small scale. And Christ knows how many things you interact with a bot driven. That's one of the most insidious, dangerous things out there. Is bots creating echo chambers and stirring shit up. Much worse than people at school.
Well, at least you could check with the people at school. You can go and ask them. Or you can't do that with bot farms.
Just like, hey, are you a bot?
I'm not going to say yes, are they? Maybe.
Unless they're a fucking genius.
Yeah. Yes, I am. It's like
the bots are evolving.
Is this the truth? Should I believe it?
No, the bot's like, no, but you are.
No, you're the bot.
Sorry.
We're all drinking tea. It's very warm.
It's a tea break. Yes, it's very very hot, and in true English fashion, we're all having a tea
Because it cools you down.
in the sticky weather.
Apparently it does, because it raises your core temperature so that your body reacts to that and cools you down.
Apparently.
I don't feel it. No.
I don't think anyone does. I think it's a lie. Spread by social media. It's the media!
Cheers,
Oh
Sean.
God. To be fair though, Sean was right.
He was
right. Sean Parrott, you're a herald of our times. Whether or not it's on purpose, we salute you.
We have to explain this.
Oh yeah, true. So it was back in day, maybe 2009, where someone at our secondary school had the genius idea of having us all gather in the hall for formal debates. And I think
very formal.
In fact, pretentious level debate. Where you had to say, like, yes, Madam Speaker, or some shit.
Yeah,
we didn't want to say that, we just wanted to fucking argue. The topic was the media in general, I believe. Or maybe...
I think it was to do with terrorism, wasn't it?
Was it?
Yeah, it was
something in regards to...
It was just like Iraq war.
See, I thought that was what Sean was saying. Either way.
Yeah.
So it was of that era where very much the news was the war on terror, it was Iraq, it was people remembering and reacting to the fallout of 9/11. And then we have a very good friend called Sean, who bloody better be listening, who it's fair to say does often speak without a lot of thought. And he just gets up, and obviously to the derision of everyone, but as you do when you're a teenager, he's like, why do we know about 9/11? The media! why do we hate the Taliban? It's because of the media! And obviously we were like, either you're an idiot, or yes, obviously that's the case, but... I think what he was saying was so deep that even he didn't know what he was talking about. So if people find some kind of secret recording that was taken off Sean at that time, they may worship him as some kind of god. Because he predicted everything.
The oracle.
All things. Well, the tricky thing is that the news about the world has always come through a filter. Like, it has to.
Yeah.
Because stuff happens somewhere, and then someone has to go and get information about it and bring it to other people. And I guess in history, the number of sources was much smaller.
Yeah.
Like, it was, and like it was always going to be biased, and always would have come through like a political or religious or whatever it is lens.
Yeah.
But I guess you just accepted that one because that was the one that you got. Maybe you had two or three others that you could then go and check.
Well, it was the news at 6, not 500 million posts on Facebook and Twitter and all this. And
or Channel 4 News or ITV News, or the BBC and Sky News.
For some reason I thought you were talking about like proper
and...
history kind of stuff.
No, I am, but the culminates in where we are now.
Sure,
so through history, it was like messenger pigeon or some guy on a horse, or you sent people out to go check stuff.
Yeah.
Just you
the time
you
it
never
took
guess what I just saw.
Yeah.
Like to now, where you've got like just an inordinate number of sources of information
instantly
that are all coming through a filter, and it's not less, and it's much harder to figure out.
It is,
because at least when if you have like to use the American, like your CNN or your Fox News kind of thing, at least you can like understand that Fox News is a right-leaning media outlet, CNN a left-leaning media outlet, or the Telegraph and the Guardian. But then now you've got just this and all the individuals on social media, which I've mixed feelings about, because I like the idea that you have this kind of open source, like blah, here's all
which
the
is
information,
fine,
and you can have people hash it
out.
But
the problem
is
people getting the news is by the time they've got it, it's already been what do you call it, like messed with, morphed or whatever, or there's been an agenda pushed to it from that angle, like the thing already. So a clip will be cut down, for instance, to show a certain response, or
it was the question of what do they show us and what don't they show us? Because choices have to be made about both.
They don't show us a lot more than they're showing.
Yeah, which
if a 10-minute clip's out there, they'll show 10 seconds of it.
Yeah, it's something they hit on maybe about 10 years ago in a South Park episode, who were equally as prolific oracles as Sean back in the day, where the whole episode basically was dedicated to the news is no longer imparting information, it's not different from an advert, and that's why you get stuff clipped up in certain ways to sensationalise it, because it's all about clicks and shares and interactions. It's not about but did we convey some kind of truth? It's did enough people click on it, and therefore can we make enough money?
And to make it more exciting, cut the rest of it out so it just looks like
Well, and
something
and also
more severe happened.
I don't know how often you watch the news, but does anyone recall one of the last times anyone was ever instructed to make their own mind up about something? Like, here's some information.
True.
Oh,
you
no.
go make your own mind up about it. It's like
this happened. What a piece of shit.
Right. Yeah. This is horrendous. Or this, rather than just here are the facts of the things that have happened. Do with this information what you will. Think about it what you will. Talk to your friends about it. Talk to your family about it. Like this, it's like here's what's happened and here's how you should think about it. And that's
from the headline. So you're told what to think about it before you've seen or read the thing, because it would be like,
warning, disturbing as fuck.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Trying not to use like an example there. So often police comes to mind because that's often the thing in the media news at the moment or whatever. It's like policeman brutally, I don't know, GBH is some dude. But you don't, and that does happen at the end. But however, you didn't see the bit before that where he was kicking off.
Context and everything.
So.
Yeah, well, no, like you said, well, exactly. They tell you in the headline. They put in
this is what to think first. Then have a look. Yeah. Well,
I remember I didn't pay a lot of attention in school, but one of the things I do remember from history class when we did it was like a week on a lesson on propaganda or something when we were doing like World War II or whatever it was. You get like a little PowerPoint presentation with like some bullet points of like the features of what propaganda is. Now there's a propaganda also never used to be. It didn't always used to be a dirty word. Because we hear it now and we think, mischievous, conniving, manipulation.
It's
very manipulative.
Well,
that's what it sounds like.
But it didn't always used to have that connotation. It was understood that everyone's kind of always engaged in it because, like I said, you're always painting a picture of something and it's coming through a lens and a filter, so it's always propaganda in a sense. I guess it's like the degree to which you're like actively trying to manipulate someone, and so it's kind of here's what I saw happen. Do what you want with the information, as opposed to here's what I think has happened or what I saw happen, and here's how I want you to respond to it, and I'm gonna orchestrate the delivery so that you arrive at the conclusion that I want you to.
Goebbels kind of ruined propaganda.
And one of the features of propaganda that came up in the lesson, one of them was things like emotive language. Right, like the use of like jazzy, emotion alluring, inducing language that kind of like hooks your heartstrings and pulls you in.
For an example, it wouldn't be like, let's say we're talking about the war, it wouldn't be like Chinese invade blah blah. It would be shocking sines in babies roasted on pikes and acts of
barbecues.
Right, which is just everything nowadays. It's like crisis, the plural crisis, the multi-crisis. It's the world's on fire. Everyone panic. And it's just constant. Everyone's being pulled left and right in their emotions, rather than let's have serious conversations about all the complex things that are happening around us. You can all make up your own damn minds about it, and through the interaction of people making up their own minds and talking, we might arrive at a semblance of something that we might call the truth, or close to it.
Or at least advanced intellectual capability in some way.
Right, or just not devolve into tribalism and yelling at each other and being suspicious of each other and lumping each other into groups.
I think this is the constant through line of the conversations that you and I have, Matt, is that we do often see the same things, but I'm constantly torn on: is there an agenda, or is this as an organic consequence of I tell you what, when we use this kind of language, people watch this shit, people click on it. Let's do more of it. And then media used to be a mirror of the world, now the world's a mirror of the media. So is it organic or is it some kind of agenda?
Well, both. I mean, because I think there will be people just realising kind of subconsciously that, like we were talking about how you change the information on your dating app, right? You're not really thinking about doing it, you're kind of just doing it because it's going to increase the likelihood of a certain response. Right, you could do that kind of unconsciously when you're writing a news story, that you're going to frame it in a way to try and get a response. If you I think what journalists should be doing is being conscious of the fact that that's an impulse they might have, and to not do that
because they want to make it more exciting, or
because if it becomes all about clicks and engagement rather than are you a truth-seeking journalist?
It's a battlefield, isn't it, for those, because they're competing with one another for being the best writer or story writer or whatever.
Sure. No, but
they they could be manufacturing it to become more exciting.
They absolutely are.
No, exactly. Which sort of, I think there'll be like because some people understand that this is how language, discourse, and politics works is through theatre. Like you don't have to be right. You just have to put forward the right show, and if it's the one that gets the traction and gets everyone going, then you've won. That's politics. It doesn't have to be the truth. It just has to be the thing that gets the people going.
Yeah. It has to become the truth.
So to answer your question, is there a they? And it's like, well, some people think in those terms. Like some people are aware that that's how those kinds of dynamics play out, and so they'll be conducting themselves knowingly and intentionally to do that. And then some people will just be responding to the fact that that's a thing that happens.
So organic, basically. It's not a grand conspiracy. There's just some people who've worked it out.
It's both.
And then it's kind of a knock-on effect.
Well, no, the two things can be true at once.
I disagree. And I agree. I had to do it. Sorry, I had to do it.
It's alright.
I set you up for it the whole time. Did I do it on purpose, or did I just retcon it so I seemed clever?
Retcon.
You either did or you didn't.
Oh, shit.
Homage to Jake there.
Yes, and
50-50.
If you'd like to subscribe to the podcast, simply use the QR code below. You're welcome, Jake.
And you can look for us on Google.
Does he hate Google as well?
He doesn't like you searching for Google. He says you should search the internet. Don't search Google.
No control.
Google is the internet.
We actually do have to get him on at some point.
Oh, I'd love to. I'd love to have him on.
Just to talk about QR codes, if nothing else.
And pandas.
Fucking pandas. Or pandas not fucking, in fact.
Well, look, he's not
He'll be
here
raging now.
He's not here to defend his own arguments. We should...
No.
I'm a big fan of his panda-based thesis. We'll let him describe that in his own words.
A little bit.
Yes, so I think it would be helpful if maybe we can think of the impacts of social media. What can we see as a direct consequence of it that you look around you today and you can actually see? So for me, what I'll start with, just to get the ball rolling, is kids trying to look much older than they are and wearing inappropriate as fuck clothing. I don't care if I sound like a granddad. There's some stuff you see where you're like, oh my god, how is that allowed?
So I think there's more of a heavy emphasis on, because obviously when you post on social media, it's like I've mentioned earlier, you're posting your best pictures, right? So therefore I think people, especially girls, are trying harder in the real world more often. So
it's like an arms race.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get you. That's pretty fucked up because, when we were at school, the girls were always trying to, not that we weren't, but in a different way, trying to push the boundaries of what they were allowed to do in terms of like the uniforms, so like
but I would say
rolling up the skirt and all that shit. Yes, but that has definitely been exacerbated. Yeah. Obviously, they're being shown how they're basically getting, in terms of game terms, OP strats in terms of how to look older and air quotes prettier with makeup and clothing and stuff. And you see a lot. Now, I've got a bit of a habit of doing this, which everyone's going to say, no, bollocks you, but genuinely, I always click on these videos where it's like some kind of like basic girl doing a little dance and so on. I'm like, I want to see if there's any like beef behind this. I want to see if there's a point, or is this as stupid or banal or bait as I think it is. And it always is just someone like shaking the ass or whatever and going, here's the fashion tip, like, doing the ooh type face. But you can imagine impressionable people are watching that and copying it. Because I'm sure that younger people look, or at least are trying to look older than they did back in my day.
Definitely, yeah.
I can't see any other big factor that has changed that other than social media.
Yeah. I think it's exaggerated a little bit as well, because that is happening, but also they are inherently just looking older at a younger age anyway, even the males, slightly, than what we looked at 17, 18, say. When you look now,
we were
17, 18-year-olds look a lot older.
Dorks.
A lot more facial hair you see. Like there was one or two with like a decent bit of facial hair at that age. Now it's like everyone has got some shitty beard. The girls
Jason has a beard.
A shitty beard. The girls are looking a lot more fuller, earlier. Like you see it.
Oh, so you think you mean the physiology, not just like how they're presenting themselves?
Yeah, but I'm saying both. I'm saying they are presenting themselves like that, but also it's exaggerated by the fact that they are just looking older anyway. So
do you think that's kind of one of the
fast tracking it,
long-term consequences of the biological arms race of basically mate selection, and how
partly
blokes mature-looking girls with big asses and tits and thin. So now we're just seeing like an exaggerated version of that, kind of like the end of a game of Monopoly.
Yeah. And also with the development of certain, clothing lines where, well, not so much now with Gen Z, where we're wearing more loose fitting stuff, but they were wearing, well, there's still obviously a lot of tight fitting stuff, but they were going to the tight fitting stuff, which is more, accentuating and shows off like curves more.
But then I think
and
Gen Alpha, who are the slightly younger ones, are going back to like the crop tops and the really tight like Gymshark shit.
Yeah.
And the big white pumps. You see a lot of that all the time.
Yeah.
So that does seem to be the fashion of the younger ones, because everyone's always a rebellion of previous.
Against, so it's flip-flopping, right. Makes sense.
So for us, like Gen X were wearing more like the Fight Club, opposite type Fight Club flannel stuff like from Friends. They're trying to be a bit
90s.
Either fashionable or like contrivingly low effort. Whereas I think a lot of millennials are like, okay, you can picture a millennial woman kind of growing up in mid-20s or 30s, if we can be so bold, say we're about that. You got your tight jeans, your nice fitting top, maybe trainers or boots. Your bloke is like, he's probably gone down the gym a bit, he's tried a bit with his facial hair, he's got fairly, still quite fitted clothes on. Whereas you see the ones after, so that your typical Gen Z is very like flowy, vibey, I don't care kind of clothes again. So it makes sense that the alphas are back to like, Gymshark.
Yeah. That sounds about right. Yeah.
I guess knowing that, does that kind of invalidate our moans and that we're just being old gits moaning about the next lot? I'm hoping it does.
Well, with the... Because like you said, this is a direct impact of that kind of social media, which... I think when you set up an environment where... especially young girls who are very sensitive to things like status and how they look and comparing themselves to others in their environment. And I know we all do that. But with women, generally speaking, being more prone to negative emotions and so responding to those things in not good ways, because you hear a story every now and again of a young girl killing herself because of how she was comparing herself to people on Instagram and whatnot. I think when you've got this environment where young girls are seeing that, well, to be sexy in a very particular way or attractive in a very particular way is to be successful, especially with the introduction of things like OnlyFans and whatever the hell's happening with TikTok.
Well, even like Twitch streaming or Instagram photos, and any insert placeholder here kind of thing, absolutely.
Because then they're seeing that and they're going, oh, well, that's the ideal, right? Then that's what men want, that's what the boys around me want. I think it's, in fact, as much of an arms race with their fellow women than it is like to please the bloke, but the same effect does come into action. That's a terrible sentence. Well, but even I think the sad thing is that the young women who are temperamentally not inclined to lean towards that, but they see the environment and go, well, I don't want to be alone, right? Like, I don't get left out. I don't want to get left behind. I'd like to have a boyfriend or a mate or something like that. And I don't like what these young women are doing on Facebook. It's not me. I don't feel like that's what I want to be doing with my body or the rest of it. But I also don't want to be alone. And so they adjust their behaviour to fit into what seems to be the norm, which I think is, like I said, quite sad.
It's kind of like a gravitational pull in a way. Kind of brings in more and more from the edges.
Well, and it's not real. It's online kind of thing, and like, and with like the access that people, especially like children have nowadays to like porn, because if you have a phone that's connected to the internet and doesn't have adult lock on it, you can just get on it, right? It's not like when we were kids and you had to like find a porn magazine in the woods or like a VHS.
I remember so clearly the first porn mag someone found in primary school.
I remember mine first. Yeah,
it was obviously down a woody trail. And everyone's like, fucking hell, let me come and see! Oh my god, is that what it looks like?
There was really tiny shit pictures as well. I remember this guy printed off once on the bus, he brought it on, just like a few pages of old, like, tiny little pictures about, like, stamp sizes. And we were all, like, passing around, just, like, everyone with it in their face, really close up, like, trying to, like, find any discernible detail, like, oh, I think I can see some tits, I'm not sure. They were so shit, but it was like,
but it was rare. It was like,
and it was rare, and it was exciting because it was like, I mean, that,
because they were always up on a high shelf, and like you couldn't get them, and it was
You could have fucking giant.
and no, but if you tried to, it would be suspect and weird.
Yeah.
Whereas like now that if you have a phone that's connected to the internet,
Yeah.
you can get and see like whatever really.
The whole shebang.
You don't have to walk out of your room with sunglasses and a trench coat on.
No, but I'll go back to what I was saying about the draw to conduct yourself in a certain way, because I think it's probably the same for young men as well. Because I don't like, yes, some young men are drawn to like the physical stuff that happens on porn, all the rest of it, and the very theatrical nature of it, and all the I don't know. But I think a lot, like some young blokes might again be like, well, yes, I find this exciting. I don't necessarily want this from my partner, but it's like, is that what they want from like what they're seeing men do on porn? Are they thinking, well, that's what women want from me? And so should I adjust my behaviour in sex towards that? And and then the kind of feminist critique of, well, it encourages young men to sexualise women and just see them as objects, see them as meat, and all of those things coming together, people adjusting their behaviour, reframing the way we look at each other and we see each other as like as sexual objects, which we always not sexual objects, but it's like we're both, right?
Well, it's kind of part of it.
Yeah, no, it is a part of it, but like it's like it's become, well, I don't know, disastrously dysfunctional.
Well,
although people still have normal relationships, so I shouldn't blow that out of perspective, but it's. But like, how many young lads, like how many people our age probably still watch porn on a regular basis?
Yeah.
Right? Do you stop? Could you stop? It's like, if you couldn't, is that addiction? Are you addicted to porn? Right? Like,
don't fucking look at me.
No, I wasn't. There's two of you in the room. To look at one of you.
Unlucky.
I get you.
No, come on.
No. I was kind of just nailing the point, which is just like, like, that's the environment everybody's in, and we've just been it's been dropped in on us like a brand new technology, kind of like what's about to happen with AI, and there was like little to no oversight. There was no sort of let's keep an eye on this.
Yeah, let's slow
and
it
see
down
what
a bit.
happens.
Oh, how about free market?
And
it literally just went bang.
Here you go, and fucking do what you want with it.
There's all the porn. All of it.
Yeah.
Watch it all now. And they did.
It's gonna move.
And
it did move.
Like our parents' generation, when they were like, because we bought. I remember I asked my mum for a laptop, right, when I was like 12 or 13, and I was like, oh, I need it for school. I need one of these things for school, so I can do my homework on it that I never did anyway.
You do fuck all.
Yeah, I do homework. She's like, and and then your mum buys you one because she's like, oh, this new technology's come along.
It's good for
school. Well, he can just do his homework there, and then maybe he'll do it faster.
Yeah.
Right, and then your parents give you this thing, and they don't understand that it's this black box of
naughtiness,
access to demons.
Yeah.
Right? I must think it's got some kind of like forearm workout inbuilt as well.
Like Quagmire, apparently. It comes up with a massive forearm.
I gotta go. But no, I think that is right. Some of the concerns though do strike me a little bit as like a moral panic though, because it reminds me a lot of everyone who played GTA was going to kill a prostitute.
Yeah.
Anyone who listened to My Chemical Romance was going to kill themselves and worship the devil.
Yeah.
And
that's not true.
There is an element of truth in the extreme, so people who probably were quite fucked up.
Yeah, but they were going to do that anyway, right? Those
exactly
people.
that.
They didn't go and play, like say, play GTA and go, cool, I fancy doing a killing spree. They fancied doing that before they played the game.
Right. But this has always happened with like movies and music and stuff.
Yeah, sure.
It's not when Eminem was kicking about and he was saying all what he was saying, and everyone was like, "Oh, it's going to be horrible." It's well, you can listen to something and not do the bad thing, right? You don't have like, "Oh, I've heard it. I have to go and do it now."
Yeah.
Must kill Mo.
Yeah. So that's a fair point. You want to avoid like the moral panic aspect of it.
Yeah.
But I think like empirically, you can look and see how
see the result.
Well, and look, how people. When we were talking about dating, one of the things we were talking about was the difficulty that people have. Because my suggestion was just go outside and fucking talk to people.
Yeah. And
your response to that was, well, that's not what people are at.
We'd like to.
Yeah.
But that's not.
But
where
they facilitate
is.
each other, right? Don't they? So that the apps come out because people weren't doing it, and then that only makes it worse. And then.
Well, no, I think people were doing it, and if the apps hadn't have appeared, people would have gone out and...
I think they would have done more. If there was if the apps never came about, no one had the idea of Tinder and all the things that followed, I think people would be more inclined to go out and stuff. But because that has happened,
Yeah.
people have lent more into that side
Yeah,
of it.
yeah, I think it's true.
Because it's easier, you can see more people.
Well, it's a temptation.
Like we said, right?
Yeah, like it's like, oh, here's like a cool, neat, fun box for you to play with, and maybe you can get sex out of it every now and again, or maybe you'll find get yourself in a relationship.
But it's a biological impulse, isn't it? So you do it one way or the other, and with, I guess, to bring it back to social media.
Yeah.
I wonder what impulse that feels more than dopamine chasing. I wonder if it's some kind of either comparison or maybe like a voyeurism kind of thing, because you can look at what other people are doing, or everyone's always got a bit of imposter syndrome that you're like, maybe I am the only one who's not like it. Right, let me just have a check. And I wonder if that kind of can bring on shit. Maybe that was just a dark window into my world. I don't know.
Well, I think there's always the nosy neighbour. There's always the person who's just interested in a bit of gossip. There's the person who doesn't really give a crap, and the person who has existential crises on a day-to-day basis.
Fucking locked eyes with me again there.
You.
And yeah, I don't know. It's we're human beings, right? We're social creatures. We need connections with other people, and if the only place we're going to get those is in any real on a regular basis is via an app, because that's how everyone's doing it nowadays. And I don't know. I don't use them, so I don't it's a little tricky for me to comment on this, but I don't know how frequent. I mean, I'll say this. Like our high streets just seem way quieter than they did 10, 15 years ago.
That's right.
Right, like there's more people live here.
Yeah.
Right. The place is larger. There's
much larger. Yeah.
Way more people live here than they did 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And 15 years ago, I was cycling through it just this afternoon. I was thinking, like Sunday afternoon on like a nice sunny day in Leighton Buzzard. The high streets usually, for a while ago, would be buzzing. It's just and it's empty.
Yeah.
Right, and it's not that there aren't shops there. It's not that there aren't things to do there. But everyone's now, because now your entertainment systems, you've got your entertainment.
Yeah,
it's at
there's
home.
more
There's
at home.
consoles. There's TVs. There's Facebook, social media.
Yeah.
How many people are just? I mean, again,
just sat on their phone at home.
Well, but then we've just been to the park today, and there were loads of people out, weren't they? Sat there. There was music playing. So there's both
a lot of kids.
Yeah. So like, I don't know. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything's fine.
Good one. The end.
I think it is. Because every generation of every civilization always has its unique problems, and they think that problems are unique to them. Like the time you live in is the most extreme, the most important. You're the most advanced, or the most fucked humanity's ever been, because you're there and it feels important to you. You haven't seen anything else. Some people are right. However, I think that's much more by luck than judgment, or rather bad luck. So there are issues that come with this, but if you look contextually, they're probably not better or worse than other times. It's just different. And we're in a particular, what do they always say about football clubs who are playing shit? We're in a transition phase. We don't really know what to do with stuff just yet.
Oh, I think that's true. I think definitely in a
transformative sort of
period.
period.
Liminal space, which is like a period in between. There was this like a solid way of doing things this way, and then a lot of stuff's come in and disrupted it, and now a lot of stuff's up in the air.
Yeah.
And we're in this period of, well, hang on a second, who the fuck are we? Where are we going?
Yeah.
Well, like that whale in Hitchhiker's Side of the Galaxy, who just suddenly appears and has to start naming things. It's like, oh, what's this big this thing we'll call my head, and we don't really know what's going on.
And essentially, it's a botch. So it very much.
It's very fast moving.
The internet apps, and what's going to be big is AI. And if the nanobot thing ever happens, people were talking all kinds of big game about that. But it very much reminds me of when, the cliche for me talking about history now, when gunpowder first got introduced. Everyone's like, this is going to be big. This is the shit. We all know it's the next best thing. How the fuck do we use it? I know it goes boom. How do I implement it? Do I put it like with a guy with a pike and a gun? Is it like a cannon? Do I use it to dig and blow stuff up? Or like a musket, it's quite good, but then I've got to wank it off for 3 minutes to do the next shot. And it's basically, until people work it out and be mature enough, it's a bit shit. So I wonder if we're in the early stage of that kind of revolution, where in 400 years people will look at this as like a turning of the age from, for example, medieval to Renaissance period. Where like the thing that changed it has happened, but the people, let's say if you
who adopt it in the future.
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
No, I'm sorry. If you talk to a scholar, they go, well, the medieval period ended in about 1500. The people in 1500 weren't like, fuck, guys, the sky is a different colour. They didn't realise it. They could probably work out there was a change coming. So I wonder if we are those people who are going from the shit-munching medieval period to the Renaissance, but it's just got some teething problems. And I choose to be optimistic about that.
Yeah.
Well,
I think the issue with it is because obviously it is very fast moving. It's been about since 2000. I reckon the turning point was the first sort of iPhone, 2007ish. Is that 2008? That period from then
certainly started it.
Yeah, till now has been very, very fast moving compared to any other time of any other introduction of something.
Well, that was like when social media first kicked in. You had your Bebos and your MySpace and all the other ones, right? There was a period where it was like normal and like like fun and like nice and not weird.
It was very light-hearted and silly.
Very simple.
You got the occasional pervert weirdo on there doing some stuff or whatever, and then but that was kind of it. And it was just like a kind of social thing. And it was like, oh, we can now talk to everybody. It's like we go home from school and like. We'd rush home from school and rather than go out and play, we'd go and sit on MSN and talk to our friends.
Oh, MSN was the nuts.
Cam to cam and that.
Yeah, and so it's like...
in terms of how we talked about having to adapt to fit in an unnatural way, most of my mental effort on MSN was spelt intentionally and believably spelling things incorrectly so I didn't look like a nerd.
Okay.
Because I knew how to write properly, but I had to abbreviate things in farcical ways just so I didn't look like a fucking virgin.
Instead of S.
But the irony is people probably would have found it quite enjoyable and nice and gone, he can spell, that's really cool.
That's cool, he can spell.
Maybe.
But I wonder if you look at these people who are seeing air quotes optimal examples of humanity on because in Instagram, for example, is the one where everyone on there can project themselves as a 10 out of 10 for the 3 seconds it takes to take that shot, and then they're done again. I got so deep in my analogy, I lost what I was saying. Shit. Can you remember?
Well, you were talking about... oh, God, hang on.
We suck.
No, MSN. It was MSN using...
Yes, that's it. Sorry, I got it. So if the people who otherwise would have been really brilliantly unique... Yes, exactly. Are seeing that. Are we kind of missing the opportunity for them to be... uniquely themselves by showing this is what's there, and is there more of like a teaching process that needs to be integrated about like, remember, it's great if you want to be like this, but it's also kind of bollocks, and don't lose yourself.
Yeah, but is that different from? It will be, but when you're doing that like in person, like rather than on an online platform like MSN, I guess you're still doing the same thing on the playground.
Yeah.
Rather than the individual...
Try to fit in.
Yeah.
I suppose it's a lot more... It's easier to do on an internet platform or through the keyboard.
Well, because there's more of a filter.
You've got the time to fabricate
and
it
you
and
have
think
control
about
of the
it.
filter,
But that's ideal. So maybe that was linking on to what I was talking about like the gunpowder revolution. Is maybe this is our shit period of bodging it, where people are thinking, that is a standard, I must conform to that standard. And then when we're mature enough and we've gone through the kinks and worked it out, we can realise, we can actually use this to showcase what I am, and fuck you if you don't like it, because this is where I find my own people.
Yeah.
Well, and with any introduction of new technology, like say the printing press, right? One of the things that it does is it destabilizes like the previous power structures, because all of it previously it was just that if you wanted the word of God, you had to go to the church, right?
Get scribed.
You couldn't, and no one else, because it was all in Latin. No one else. You had to trust these people.
It was heresy to translate it.
And then now all of a sudden, everyone in French, German, and English can go and read the Bible, and these people are out of a job, or like they're not as important as they used to be, because you can go and read it and interpret it yourself and reach your own conclusions about it, which destabilise things. And I think, to your point, the same kind of thing is happening now after the introduction of things like social media and the internet, because previously, if you wanted news or information, you had to go to the BBC, to ITV, or like whatever,
or the government,
or the government, and that was it. Whereas now you can go and look at 200 different independent journalists. You can go and look at all of the different news outlets in this country and in France or in Germany or in the Middle East or in the USA or Russia, and you can have access to that. You can go and look at it.
You can in fact create it.
You can still fall foul of the attempts of the previous establishment to try and gain a control of a narrative. But if you want to, I guess like in the Matrix, right, you can choose to go and look outside of the box, the cave, right? Yeah, you can go and you can leave if you can voluntarily choose to, and go and see more, or not, or you can stay looking at the shadows on the wall. So I think we're in one of those moments. I agree with you.
Nice, we've hit on something. Social media is gunpowder. In a roundabout way, social media is gunpowder, and TikTok
Well, it's certainly revolutionary.
It's the pike and shot of its era. If you're a nerd, you know what I mean.
Pike and shot. That's a pretty early on one, isn't it?
Oh, what? Sorry.
What is that, pike and shot?
Pike and shot is like a Renaissance infantry formation
Right.
where they.
Okay.
Some of them had pikes,
So
some
we're
of
in
them
an
had
early
guns,
phase of
basically, yeah.
the development of
So it's a bit of a bodge in between.
Well, I mean, like you said, like when was the first social media? It was what 2000s.
It was definitely in the noughties.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you exactly.
So
which year.
we're a quarter of a century into this stuff being present in our lives.
We're doing all right.
We've like most of our lives have been spent interacting with it, and it's now like impossible basically if you want to.
Yeah.
Because I missed out, like not being on social media, missed out on loads of stuff, like stuff that was happening at university, like groups and meetups and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah,
I just
yeah.
didn't see it because
Yeah.
it was all on Facebook. So, which was fine. I didn't mind that.
It's fine. I missed all
I
the stuff. It's fine, man.
No, I found my own friends. I found my own stuff to do, and but it's a trade off, right? You have to like if you're not going to do it, you have to like accept the fact that you are going to miss out on a certain number of things.
Yeah.
So, basically, as it turns out, we're surprisingly optimistic about this, having come to that realization. And basically, we'll get used to it and perfect it, or if we can't, we'll just fuck it off as a species.
I think, like you say, it's easy to look from our own perspective, which is the only one we have had, and go, look, we can see this bad shit happening. We can literally look out the window and see it. The results.
There's a robber right there on the zebra crossing.
There's a naked teenage girl.
Oh no! Oh goodness!
Stop looking.
Oh no! Oh no! Goodness no! Anyway, continue.
yeah.
You puerile fuck.
So the fact that we can see, or what we perceive to be the result of it in a negative way, is easy to sort of for us to go, look, there it is. Shut it down. It's bad. But like you say, there's always something that the development that happens, and we're in, like I say, transition phase. Work it out. Hopefully, it gets better.
Right.
It's perspective, isn't it? There's a quote I read from a book a while ago, which is, "No news is ever as good or as bad as it appears when you first hear it."
No.
So when
Except
you detach
9/11.
from, admittedly, 9/11
That is what it seemed.
Was quite earth-shatteringly bad news. You kind of fucked my point up there. So you better think it's so profound now.
No, because the things we were told about it in the aftermath didn't wind up being true, right? You know, the reasons for going to war turned out not to be all that great.
Yeah, but that's worse. That's definitely worse.
Right,
Fucking waste.
Yes, but
basically, most things will work out well unless Dick Cheney's involved.
no follow up.
Oh, sorry.
Or Theresa May.
Well, yeah. Do you know what Theresa May's favourite band is? Wheatus. Come on.
Running through the fields.
Yeah, because
okay.
that's the worst thing she ever did.
The naughtiest thing.
Yeah. This is actually quite annoyingly uplifting again, because I was planning on ending it with that Oppenheimer quote. Of like,
You can still do that.
You know when I told you I don't know why I'm doing the Brummy accent.
It's Tommy doing Oppenheimer.
Hey Albert, you know when I told you I was worried we started a chain reaction that blew up the world? I think we did, but as it turns out, we're probably alright. The world's not going to end.
That bit wasn't in it.
Wait for the next episode about the massive fucking comet that I've just been informed it's going to hit us. No lie, look it up. It's quite scary.
Well, that's pretty cool. We'll check that out.
If you're big enough, fucking header it for us.
Yeah. Nice. Was there anything else you wanted to?
No, I think the end of the world is pretty much a good way to end it.
Okay, nice.
Right.
Yeah, social media is going alright. The world isn't going to end.
Not by
but we should,
social media.
Well, no, I think the lesson to take from it would be we should be paying attention, right? Because it's a tricky environment, right? It's not obvious what's going on whenever we're presented with information. Oversight, although not overzealous responses to stifle because it's freaky and it's scary, right? Because you want to allow the dynamic for us to be able to sort these things out for ourselves, think about it, and work through our problems. And the world might end tomorrow, so get outside, touch grass,
get
and
that bucket list ready, guys.
have a good time.
Listen quick.
Yeah.
Put it on double speed.
All right.
Wait, I've said that at the end, so we should probably let me add. I'll add that in. We'll edit this. Add that in at the
Put it at the
start.
beginning.
No, listen on quarter speeds for that algorithm, bro.
Yeah.
Get that engagement. Like, comment, and tell us what you're going to do in the next 15 years till the world blows up.
Nice. This has been the
Sons of Aries podcast.
We'll see you next time. Cheers, everyone.
Bye.
Adio.